Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about a trend that I've been seeing, especially lately on TikTok, that I really don't like. For whatever reason, more than ever before, I've been getting tagged in videos of badly done piercings on TikTok, which I've always been tagged in, but this time I'm getting tagged in a lot where the piercer is kind of blaming the client for the piercing turning out wrong. It's a lot of, oh, well, you moved, so the piercing came out bad. You messed it up. Or I'm getting tagged in people sharing horror story experiences of piercings that they got done super crooked, super wrong, and the piercer blamed them for it. So I wanted to kind of hop on here and, I don't know, dispel a little bit of misinformation and kind of talk about what I've been seeing. Now, it's an excuse as old as time. Piercer does a piercing, it turns out crooked. Piercer tells the client, oh, well, you moved. It's your fault that this piercing is wrong. It's always been a thing that unfortunately piercers have done. But as someone who has been a professional piercer for over a decade now, has done literally thousands of piercings, it is almost never the client's fault for moving. I would say like 0.1% of the time, maybe, is it the client's fault that they moved. And especially seeing the types of videos I've been tagged in, and a lot of them have video recordings of the piercing being done, I'm almost always watching the piercer using an incorrect technique, using incorrect tools or needles or jewelry, or just from the very beginning lining up the piercing in completely the wrong spot or at completely the wrong angle, and then blaming the client and saying they moved and ruined it. Now, is there a reality where clients could move and mess us up while we're working? Yes, of course. But if I'm being honest, as a professional piercer, if I think a client is going to move like that during a piercing, we really don't even get that far. If a client is really going to be that squirmy in that movie on the table, they're usually already jumping and moving around just while I'm cleaning or getting set up. And I have a pretty strict 3-strike rule. If I'm cleaning or working on you and you are jumping or moving, or we're getting ready to pierce and you're moving around, I'll give you 3 tries to calm down long enough to pierce. And if you can't, we're simply not going to push through it. You're clearly not in the right headspace to get this piercing today, and I am not going to put both of us at risk. Now, with a really experienced piercer, the piercing itself takes an incredibly short amount of time. Like, by the time a client has registered that they've been pierced and they've involuntarily scrunched up their nose or moved or whatever, the piercing's already done. The client can't mess up the piercing at that point. It's finished. It's been finished. Like, for example, piercing nostrils and septums. I've had clients who've sneezed. I have been sneezed on more times than I can count. We pierce, it triggers a response in the nose, they sneeze almost immediately afterwards. But the piercing is done so quickly that even a client sneezing while I'm in the process of piercing their nose is not messing me up. It's not causing the piercing to come out crooked. Now, I'm not saying that it never happens where a client moves and maybe it does cause something to go wrong. Obviously, with piercing, we're working on people's bodies. We need to be really precise with placement. That is something that can occur in the piercing room, but it's unbelievably rare. And the fact that there are literally hundreds of thousands of people saying, oh yeah, my piercer told me I moved and that's why it came out crooked. And almost every time I talk to a client who had that happen or watch these videos, the piercer just did a bad or crooked piercing to begin with. And they are simply blaming the client rather than taking ownership for the fact that they did a piercing that wasn't great. And you know, when you think about situations like this, it really does kind of just comes down to Occam's razor. The most likely outcome is probably the accurate one. It's far more likely that there are just a lot of subpar piercers doing piercings that aren't perfect and finding it convenient to blame the client for it than there are clients actually moving enough at the exact split second that we're piercing to cause something to come out wrong. And a really big red flag if you're in this situation is if the piercer does the piercing, puts the jewelry in, lets you get up and look it in the mirror, doesn't say anything until you bring it to their attention. Hey, this isn't sitting right. And they go, oh yeah, well you moved, so it's crooked. If I ever did a piercing that turned out less than perfect, A, half the time I know before I even have the needle out of someone that I'm not happy with something and how it's sitting. But B, even if I did get all the way through to putting in jewelry and looking at it and being like, That's not a great piercing. You would tell the client beforehand. You would say, hey, so piercing's done, jewelry's in. I'm gonna let you hop up and take a look at it in the mirror, but I wanna be honest with you. I'm not happy with how it's sitting. I'm not happy with this angle. I'm not happy with whatever. I'm gonna let you take a look at it and decide. I think we should correct it or we should fix it, but it's your body. I want you to decide. You know, they would own up to it right away. The fact in a lot of these videos that the client gets up and looks in the mirror, or even the client is allowed to leave and then notices something is wrong with their piercing and gets back in touch with the piercer, and the piercer goes, oh, well, you moved, so it's crooked. Huge red flag. If that is happening to you, if you've gone and gotten a piercing and you get up and look in the mirror and you realize that something is wrong, it's not sitting the way you want it to, or you get home and you realize something is wrong and you reach back out to that piercer and only then do they try and say that you moved and blamed it on you, that is 100% a piercer using that as an excuse to get out of admitting that they did a bad or an incorrect piercing. Please don't fall for it. Please don't be taken advantage of by that. If a good piercer does something that's not perfect on you, they're going to be honest with you about it from the get-go, and they're going to explain what's going on and usually also offer to fix it. And sometimes if a piercer didn't catch it and you reach back out and you're like, hey, I'm not happy with how this is sitting, or I'm not happy with whatever, they should be offering to fix and correct their work, having you come in, seeing what's going on. If they're gonna play the, oh yeah, well you moved so it was crooked card, especially a while after they did the piercing for you, I guarantee you it's them making an excuse. And unfortunately, a lot of clients don't know better. That sounds like a really reasonable excuse. Oh yeah, I must have moved and messed up my piercing. It makes sense. And unfortunately, thousands of times a month, piercers all over get away with doing bad or subpar work or charging a client twice for a piercing that they messed up because that sounds like a really convincing situation to have happened. It's really easy to blame the client. It's really hard to take accountability when you make a mistake and be like, hey, I'm not happy with how this turned out. I wanted to make this video because I'm so bummed with how often I'm getting tagged in these stories of clients who are just so clearly being taken advantage of by piercers because they don't know any better. So is there an incredibly slim, itty-bitty possibility that you could move during piercing and mess up your piercing? Yeah, absolutely. Is it really likely that that's going to happen? No. And also pay attention to the situation and how the piercer is handling it. Are they being upfront with you right from the get-go after they finish piercing that they're not happy with how something came out? And are they offering the opportunity to fix it? Or are they immediately rushing to blame you, or they're not saying anything about it, letting you leave with a bad piercing, and then blaming you when you bring it up to them? Please stay safe out there. Please don't get taken advantage of. And as always, do your research. Be smart about who you trust to pierce you and pierce your body. There are a lot of people out there who do not care, unfortunately. I hope this video helps you out, and I hope this saves at least one client from ending up in this awful situation. If you like this video and you like the content I put out, please hit like and subscribe. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to sit down and chat again soon. Bye.